The Young and the Restless Spoilers. The tragic storyline surrounding Cole Howard's terminal illness continues to captivate fans, tugging at heartstrings as the character grapples with both his own mortality and the relationships he holds dear. The tension in this narrative is deeply emotional, as Cole has chosen to face his diagnosis in silence, keeping the devastating truth about his lung cancer a secret from those closest to him. His decision to shield his loved ones from the pain of his impending death speaks volumes about his character, but it also sets the stage for a heartbreaking series of events. Cole's silent struggle. Cole has always been portrayed as a man of strength, but his recent health decline forces him into a position of vulnerability he never anticipated. He knows his days are numbered, and instead of confronting his loved ones with the truth, he decides to bear the weight of his illness alone. The decision to go to the hospital for tests and receive a cancer diagnosis is a turning point in his journey. However, Cole chooses to hide the results from everyone, his family, his friends, and especially Victoria, who has been the light in his life for so long. In a way, Cole's decision to keep his diagnosis a secret stems from a deep-seated desire to protect the people he loves. He doesn't want them to see him deteriorate, and more than that, he wants to spare them from the heartache of watching him fade away. But by doing so, he isolates himself from the very people who care most about him, creating a gulf between himself and the ones who would want to help him the most. Elena's heartbreak. As the story unfolds, Elena becomes an important emotional figure in this narrative. Her deep empathy and compassion shine through as she witnesses Cole's decision to endure his suffering alone. Seeing Cole, an older man, battling a deadly disease in silence, breaks Elena's heart. Her emotional reaction is one of both sorrow and helplessness. She knows that Cole's choice to keep his diagnosis a secret isn't about pride or denial but rather an attempt to protect those around him. Elena's compassion for him is clear, but it's painful for her to see him so alone, bearing the weight of his condition in solitude. Elena's inability to reach out to Cole, to convince him to share his burden with her or anyone else, speaks to the tragedy of his character arc. She understands his reasoning but knows that it's ultimately an unhealthy coping mechanism. There's a deep sadness in Elena's eyes as she watches him suffer quietly, wishing she could change his mind but knowing that, in the end, Cole is making this choice for reasons she may never fully understand. The sorrow she feels for Cole's situation is compounded by her own helplessness in the face of his impending death. Her grief over the situation is raw and real, and it underscores the emotional stakes of this storyline. Victoria's emotional reaction. The real turning point in the story comes when Victoria Newman, the woman who loves Cole, discovers the truth. Victoria, ever perceptive, eventually uncovers Cole's secret and realizes what he has been hiding. Her reaction is one of shock, disbelief, and ultimately, raw emotional pain. She confronts Cole, unable to hold back her tears, and slaps him in a moment of frustration and heartache. The slap is a physical manifestation of the anguish she feels. Why, she demands to know, did he keep this from her? Why did he choose to face this devastating reality alone? Victoria's outburst is a release of the pent-up emotions she's been carrying since she first learned of Cole's condition. Her slap, though it's painful and filled with anguish, is also an expression of the profound love she has for him. She's not angry at him for his illness, she's angry at the fact that he thought he could handle this alone, that he didn't trust her enough to share his pain. It's a desperate attempt to connect with him, to force him to face the reality of his situation and allow her to be there for him. However, Cole's reaction to Victoria's emotional outburst is telling. Rather than retaliate or try to explain himself, he simply stands there in silence. He doesn't argue or defend his decision, instead, he embraces Victoria, holding her close as he too succumbs to his emotions. The scene is heart-wrenching, two people who love each other deeply, yet caught in a situation where they feel powerless to change what's happening. The silence between them speaks volumes. Cole doesn't have the words to explain why he kept his diagnosis a secret. and Victoria doesn't know how to console him. They're both trapped in their own grief and fear, unable to fully help each other navigate this emotional storm. The pain of unfinished business. One of the most tragic elements of this storyline is the idea that Cole and Victoria's relationship, which had so much potential, might be cut short before they've had a chance to truly fulfill it. Their love has been a source of light for both of them, and yet, they find themselves in a situation where time is running out. The pain of knowing that Cole's life may end before they can fully experience the love they deserve is almost unbearable for both of them. For Victoria, the realization that she may lose the person she loves most in the world, without ever getting to truly be with him, is a devastating blow. The emotional weight of this story is compounded by the fact that Cole has chosen to keep his illness a secret from those who care about him the most. He's chosen to bear the pain of his diagnosis alone, and now, Victoria and Elena are left to watch as he faces the inevitable, unable to truly help him. The tragedy of Cole's situation is that he has pushed away the people who could have been his greatest source of support, choosing instead to suffer in silence. Elena's attempt to comfort. Elena, despite her own grief, tries to comfort both Cole and Victoria. She offers her support, though she knows that she can't take away their pain. The emotional complexity of the situation, where love, loss, and the fear of the unknown collide, makes it nearly impossible for Elena to find the right words to ease their suffering. All she can do is be there for them. But even her support feels insufficient in the face of such overwhelming sorrow. The tragic irony. The heartbreaking irony of this storyline is that Cole is caught in a cycle of isolation and self-sacrifice. His attempt to protect others from his suffering only serves to drive them away, leaving him alone with his illness. Meanwhile, Victoria and Elena, who would have given anything to be there for him, are left to grapple with the pain of watching him slip away without being able to change his fate. In the end, it is this emotional tragedy of love left unfinished, of words unspoken, that makes this storyline so devastating. As we move forward in the series, the question remains, will Cole's illness bring him and Victoria closer together? Or will it drive them apart? And can Elena find a way to help both of them through this overwhelming pain? One thing is certain, the emotional toll of this story will be felt by viewers for a long time to come. The consequences of Cole's decision to keep his diagnosis a secret will have far-reaching effects on everyone involved, and as the drama unfolds, we can only hope that there is a way for the characters to find peace in the face of such a tragic situation. The heartbreaking storyline surrounding Cole Howard's decision to keep his terminal illness a secret reaches an emotional crescendo. The character's internal struggle and his decision to face death alone, in isolation, is deeply tragic. And it brings a lot of pain not only to Cole but to those around him, particularly Victoria and Clare. Cole's fear of death. Cole's decision to face his illness alone speaks to his deep-seated fear of causing his loved ones more pain. In his mind, he believes that by suffering quietly and keeping his diagnosis hidden, he is sparing Victoria and Clare from the agony of watching him deteriorate. It's a misguided attempt at protecting them, but it comes at a high cost. Cole is so consumed by his fear of death that he cannot see how much his isolation is hurting the people who love him. He chooses to carry the burden alone, believing it will be easier for them in the long run. But, as we see, this decision creates an emotional rift, preventing him from sharing the love and support he so desperately needs. The selfishness of Cole's decision is evident, though it is rooted in fear. He's not trying to hurt anyone intentionally, but by refusing to allow Victoria and Clare to be there for him, he's depriving them of the opportunity to say goodbye and to help him through the most difficult time of his life. His fear of leaving them behind, alone in their grief, only intensifies the emotional complexity of this situation. Cole believes that by choosing to die quietly and on his own terms, he's giving his loved ones a kind of peace. But in reality, his choice only prolongs their suffering as they struggle with their inability to help him and their heartbreak over his secret. Victoria and Clare's struggle. Victoria and Clare are left in the wake of Cole's decision, torn between the love they feel for him and the painful reality of his illness. Victoria, who has spent so many years fighting for her own happiness, finally finds a deep connection with Cole, only for it to be cut short by his secret. She doesn't know how to process the idea of losing him, especially when she's just begun to truly embrace the love they share. Her reaction to Cole's illness is one of heartbreak, anger, and confusion. Why didn't he let her in? Why didn't he trust her to stand by his side? For Clare, this situation is even more complicated. She's just recently reconnected with her father, a relationship she's worked hard to rebuild. The thought of losing him so soon, before they've even had a chance to truly bond, is devastating. The anger and confusion she feels toward Cole are compounded by the fear of losing someone she's only just begun to trust and love. The trauma of her past makes the idea of losing her father even harder to bear, and her inability to change the course of events makes the situation feel all the more hopeless. The pain of acceptance. When Victoria finally brings Clare into the fold, hoping to work together to find a way to save Cole, the reality of the situation hits hard. The doctors have confirmed what they both feared: Cole's cancer is in the final stage, and there is no cure. The disease has progressed too far, and there's nothing more that can be done. At this moment, the three of them must face the painful truth: there is no more hope for recovery. All they can do now is accept the inevitable and spend what little time they have left with Cole in peace. This moment of acceptance is gut-wrenching. For Clare and Victoria, it is the hardest thing they've ever had to face, losing someone they love when they were just beginning to reconnect. For Cole, it is a bittersweet moment of relief. Though he has tried so hard to shield his loved ones from the pain of his death, he now knows they must face it together. It's a tragic moment of clarity, as Cole realizes that his decision to face this alone has only made things more painful for everyone involved. The final moments. As Cole's condition continues to worsen, Victoria and Clare must learn to cope with the fact that they can do nothing to change his fate. The emotional stakes of this storyline are incredibly high, as they are forced to confront the fragility of life and the pain that comes with losing someone they love. Their interactions with Cole in his final days will be filled with emotional depth, as they try to make the most of the time they have left together. But the inevitability of Cole's death looms over every conversation, every touch, every word exchanged. The pain of losing Cole is not just about his death, it's about the unfinished business, the things they will never get to say or do with him. For Victoria, this loss is compounded by the fact that she finally found love, only to have it ripped away just as quickly. For Clare, it's the loss of a father she never truly had the chance to know. Both women are left grappling with grief, but they must also come to terms with the fact that Cole's choice to hide his illness was, in some ways, a selfish one. Though he thought he was protecting them, his decision to suffer in silence has left them with a deep sense of unresolved sadness and a broken connection that can never fully be repaired. A bittersweet goodbye. As Cole's final days approach, the three of them, Cole, Victoria, and Clare, will have to navigate their grief together. The emotional moments between them will be filled with heartache and love, as they try to make sense of the time they've had and the time they will soon lose. But ultimately, they will have to say goodbye, and this goodbye will be filled with the painful realization that not all stories have a happy ending. The love between Cole, Victoria, and Clare will continue, but it will be forever changed by the loss they must face. The story of Cole's illness is one of deep sorrow and tragedy, but it's also one of love, sacrifice, and the difficulty of accepting the inevitable. For Victoria and Clare, the path ahead will be filled with emotional turmoil, but in the end, they will find a way to honor Cole's memory and the love they shared. Though Cole's death will be a devastating blow, it will also serve as a testament to the depth of the relationships he had and the impact he left on those around him.